Hey guys, as I said, I'd do a more in-depth view on the Peasant Cube if it was requested, and I figure black is as good a place to start as any. Usually when you're doing a Peasant Cube, it's good to have a idea of what you want the cube to be able to do. I mean, of course, you can also just use a lot of cards you have laying around and then go from there improving it. That's what we did. I used a lot of the cards that I had when I threw this together. Anyways, you'll see that there's a lot of removal spells in black. Most times in cube or any draft, you're not going to be able to play one color. So you can't look at the cards as a deck. You have to look at the cards as their usefulness in a limited sense. So I'm going to start off with the one casting cost spells. Reanimate. Obviously, I wanted to have you be able to play reanimation in the cube if you draft the right cards, obviously. Ultimate Price. It's one of the removal spells in black. Night's Whisper. You draw 2 cards at the cost of 2 life. It's actually pretty easy to splash, obviously, costing only 1 black and 1 colorless. Sign in Blood's a little bit harder to splash, but in 2 colors it's still not horrible, and if you're playing a fairly aggressive deck, like red-black or something, it's not horrible. Animate Dead. As I said before, I wanted reanimation to be viable in this cube. Tainer's Edict. It's a removal spell. Go for the Throat. Again, it's a removal spell. Destroy target non-artifact creature. Victim of Night. It's also a removal spell. Kiku's Shadow, same thing. Smother. This card is better for the early game. Of course, late game it can still take care of utility creatures. But with the casting cost, it's fairly easy to splash in, say, a 3-color build or something. Devour in Shadow. It's the same thing, except for this one you're actually going to lose life equal to the creature's toughness, but at the same time it doesn't have the same restrictions that most of the other removal spells in black have. This just destroys a creature, period. Sudden Death, another removal spell. As I said, there's a lot of removal spells in black. So for 3 mana you give -4/-4, but it has split second, so I don't think there's not any way to respond to it in this cube. There's not a way to stop this in this cube. Rend Flesh, another removal spell. Destroys non-spirit creature. Murder. All things being equal, with mana not being an issue, this is probably the best removal spell in the cube. It just destroys a creature with nothing else. It just destroys a creature. Moan of the Unhallowed. If you want to play a token build, if you get the right cards, or even if you're just playing a control deck, 4 mana for 2/2/2 black zombies isn't horrible. Flashback being 7 is not horrible either, because late game, you can just get it again. Diabolic Tutor. Zombify, again, reanimation. Barter in Blood, removal. This card's actually really good in this cube because it's a peasant cube. There's not a lot of board wipe cards. There's pseudo board wipe cards, but there's no Wrath of God or Damnation or anything like that, because you only have access to commons and uncommons. So this card is actually really good in this cube, and the fact that if you drafted it you get to control when you do it is just beautiful. Hideous Laughter. This is probably one of the more board wipe cards, and it just gives -2/-2 to all creatures. Rise from the Grave, again another reanimation card. You can reanimate a creature from anyone's graveyard. And finally, Deathwind is the last removal spell. It's 1 in X, and target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. And now we're going to move on to the creatures. So we're going to start at casting cost 1. Diregraf Ghoul. Comes into play tap, but it's 1 for a 2/2. Grim Roustabout. It's 2 for a 1/1 with regeneration, but it also has Unleash, so it can be 2 for a 2/2 with regeneration. And these cards are really good if you're playing an aggro build. Nezumi Graverobber. Again, if you're playing an aggro build, this is really good. And late game, this guy is good. You can remove something from your opponent's graveyard if they're gonna recur it with I don't know, Witness or whatever card it is. And he also becomes one of those reanimation spells when he flips. Daggerdrome Imp. It's 2 for a 1/1 flyer with lifelink. And the cube runs a decent amount of equipments, because that's the route I chose to go with it. So this guy can potentially be bigger a lot of times. Child of Night. It's 2 for a 2/1 lifelink. As you can see, there's quite a few 2-drops in black, so it can play a very aggressive game if you draft some of the cards. Thrill Kill Assassin. Again, 2 mana for a 1/2 with Death Touch, but it also has Unleash, so it can be 2 mana for a 2/3 with Death Touch. Nezumi Cutthroat. It's 2 for a 2/1 with Fair, so it has evasion. Can't block, but if you're drafting this card, you're probably not going to be on the defensive side of things. Knight of Infamy. Let me just get this in a little bit closer. Knight of Infamy. It's 2 for a 2/1. Has Pro White, so it has some evasion depending on what you're facing. It also has Exalted. Black Knight, the original. It's 2 for a 2/2 with First Strike and Pro White. Gatekeeper of Malakir. Worst case scenario, this guy is 2 for a 2/2. And, you know, if you have the mana, it's 3 for a 2/2 that edicts someone. This guy is black heavy, and if you're paying the kicker, it's 3 black mana, so it's probably not something you're going to be able to do early game, like turn 3, but he can be very useful. Vampire Nighthawk. This is probably one of the stronger creatures in the cube. The lifelink is very relevant. The Death Touch is very relevant if he's on defense, and the flying gives him a lot of evasion and a lot of access to blocking a lot of creatures. Fleshbag Marauder. It's 3 for a 3/1 that makes each player sacrifice a creature. The beauty is that you control when you play him, so you can play him when it's more beneficial to you, and also you can just sack him basically and get rid of something better on their side. Demonic Taskmaster. This guy is actually pretty strong, and he's proven a problem a few times. If he comes out on 3rd turn or something, he's a 4/3 flyer, and the drawback, sometimes it's not really a drawback under the right situations. Cadaver Imp. It's basically a Graverobber or Gravedigger, whatever it is, except it's a 1/1 flyer instead of a 2/2, and it costs 1 less. Screeching Bat. I know a lot of people are probably wondering, you must be able to find a better uncommon for your cube than that, but it can flip into, I believe, a 5/5 on the ground. Yeah, so you can flip it into a 5/5 on the ground if you want. Just so you know, you can switch your strategy. Slum Reaper. It's basically a bigger version of Fleshbag Marauder. Instead of 3 for a 3/1, you get 4/2 for 4. And again, you control when you do it, which is very relevant. Abattoir Ghoul. It's 4 for a 3/2 with First Strike, and whenever a creature dealt damage by it dies, you gain that much life. You gain life equal to its toughness. Marsh Fritters. It's 4 for a 1/1 flyer, but you get 2 tokens when it comes into play, which can be very relevant in a limited environment. Faceless Butcher doubles as removal. Entomber Exarch. I don't run a lot of discard effects in this cube. I was very adamant on not going the route of infect or discard, stuff like that. Kind of draws the fun out of the casual format. So this guy is one of the only cards that is able to do that in the cube, and he also has the option to return a creature from your graveyard to your hand as well. Mausoleum Turnkey. This guy, return a creature of your opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand, but it's a 3/2. It's also one of the cards I had laying around. Most of this cube are cards I had laying around. Falkenrath Noble. It's a 2/2 flyer that you can use to drain life and gain life when a creature dies. Skin Render can potentially be removal, and it's still 4 for a 3/3. Shriekmaw, again, he's removal. He has evasion, which people forget about sometimes, and it can be a 2 mana destroy non-black creature spell if you need it to be. Getting on to some of the bigger creatures here to top out the black. Sengir Vampire, everyone knows Sengir Vampire. 5 for a 4/4 that can get bigger. Flyer. Carrion Wurm. I'm gonna go in on this guy a little bit because a lot of people probably don't know this card. It's from Torment, and it's 5 for a 6/5. And whenever he attacks, basically, any player may remove 3 cards from their graveyard. If a player does, then he doesn't do any combat damage this turn. But there, in a limited format, when you're playing 40 cards, there's only going to be so many times that a person is going to be able to remove 3 cards. So at 5 mana for a 6/5 in black, it's really strong. Maalfeld Twins. This is basically, I can't run Grave Titan or any of the other Titans because this is a Peasant Cube. So this guy is kind of a compromise. It's 6 mana for a 4/4 in black, which isn't horrible. And when he dies, you get 2 zombies. 2/2 zombies. Twisted Abomination is great, especially if you're running more than one color, which you almost always will be in this cube. So he can get you, he can help you fix your mana by searching for a swamp. And a 5/3 with regeneration is not a bad thing. And the last card in black is Phyrexian Gargantua, which is 6 for a 4/4, and when he comes into play, you draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. So that's the black, and do a few more videos with some of the other colors. Thanks for watching.